country music's golden era was filled with more than hit songs and rhinestone suits. It was also haunted by whispers that refused to die. Some of these rumors sounded too wild to be true, yet history proved them right. From turbulent marriages and secret addictions to near-death moments and scandals Nashville fought to bury, these stories reveal the hidden lives of country's biggest legends. 1. Hank Snow, the whispered allegations behind the spotlight. Hank Snow was a towering figure in traditional country music. Known as the Singing Ranger, he built a career on hits like I'm Moving On and I've Been Everywhere, eventually becoming one of the most respected members of the Grand Ole Opry. But for years, a dark rumor cast a shadow over his wholesome image, that behind closed doors, Snow was guilty of abuse within his own family. At first, many fans refused to believe it. Snow projected the image of a hard-working, God-fearing entertainer who overcame poverty in Nova Scotia to become a Nashville star. But whispers grew louder in the 1980s and 90s when troubling accounts began to surface. The most notable came from his own son, Jimmy Rogers Snow, who publicly alleged that his father had been physically and emotionally abusive during his childhood. The accusations shocked fans who had seen Hank as a symbol of stability and decency in the often chaotic world of country music. While Hank Snow himself never faced legal charges or directly addressed the rumors, the testimony of his son and others close to the family gave weight to the stories. Biographers who researched Snow's life noted the complicated dynamic between the star and his family, confirming that tension and conflict were real, even if the full extent remained behind closed doors. For fans, the revelation was difficult to reconcile. The man who sang about love, travel, and resilience was also remembered in whispers as a troubled father with a darker side. In the end, the rumors served as a reminder that even country's most polished legends sometimes lived with secrets far removed from the songs that made them famous. 2. Buck Owens, the boss behind the Bakersfield sound. Buck Owens became a hero of the Bakersfield sound, blending twangy guitars with raw energy to challenge Nashville's polished production. With hits like Act Naturally and Together Again, plus his long run as co-host of Hee Haw, Owens was beloved by millions. But behind the laughter and the music, a rumor lingered that Buck was a ruthless boss who pushed his band, the Buckaroos, to the breaking point. Fans found it hard to imagine. On stage, Buck and the Buckaroos looked like a tight-knit family, trading smiles while delivering flawless performances. Yet insiders whispered about grueling rehearsal schedules, strict rules, and little tolerance for mistakes. Former band members later confirmed that Owens demanded perfection and enforced it harshly. Some recalled being fined for errors during live shows. Others said Buck withheld credit or royalties, ensuring his name was always front and center. Tom Brumley, the Buckaroos' legendary steel guitarist, admitted the money was good, but the pressure was suffocating. Doyle Holly, another former member, later revealed that Buck's controlling nature eventually drove him away, even at the height of their success. The rumors of mistreatment gained further weight after Owens' death in 2006, when more former associates spoke freely. They painted a picture of a man who was both a visionary and a tyrant, someone who revolutionized country music but left scars on those closest to him. For fans, the truth was sobering. Buck Owens had given the world unforgettable music, but the price was often paid by the musicians standing just a few feet behind him. The whispers were true. The Bakersfield sound was brilliant, but it came at a heavy cost. Glen Campbell, cocaine, chaos, and Tanya Tucker. Glen Campbell was one of country music's biggest crossover stars, his smooth voice and guitar skills carrying him from Nashville to Hollywood with hits like Rhinestone Cowboy and Gentle on My Mind. But for decades, a rumor haunted his golden image that he had spiraled into cocaine addiction and a violent, chaotic relationship with a much younger Tanya Tucker. At first, fans resisted the idea. Campbell was clean-cut, charming, and a frequent guest on television specials. The thought of him strung out on drugs and embroiled in public brawls didn't fit the image. Yet the truth came out in the late 1970s and early 80s. Campbell himself admitted to a crippling cocaine habit, at one point burning through hundreds of thousands of dollars feeding his addiction. The most infamous chapter was his romance with Tanya Tucker, more than 20 years his junior. Nashville buzzed with gossip about their fights, often fueled by drugs and alcohol. Paparazzi captured them in heated arguments, and tabloids ran endless stories of broken furniture, jealous rages, and reconciliations that never seemed to last. Tanya later confirmed much of it in interviews, calling their time together volatile and destructive. Campbell didn't shy away from the truth either. In his memoir, he confessed that cocaine nearly destroyed his life and career, and that his relationship with Tanya had been both passionate and toxic. For fans, the revelation was a reminder of how deceptive the polished country star image could be. Glenn Campbell wasn't just the rhinestone cowboy. He was a man battling demons in plain sight. The rumors were real, and they revealed a chapter of his life as turbulent as it was unforgettable. Johnny Cash and June Carter, a love born in scandal. Johnny Cash and June Carter are often remembered as country music's great love story, a tale of redemption, loyalty, and devotion that spanned decades. But for years, a rumor shadowed their romance, that their relationship began while Johnny was still married, making their love affair far less saintly than it appeared on stage. To many fans, this was unthinkable. Cash and Carter were icons of faith and family, performing gospel songs together and projecting an image of wholesome harmony. Yet behind the curtain, the whispers were true. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, Cash was married to his first wife, Vivian Liberto, while touring extensively with June. Their chemistry was undeniable, both on stage and off. Insiders confirmed that their bond deepened into an affair long before his marriage ended. Vivian later revealed in her memoir that she knew Johnny was in love with June and that the relationship contributed directly to the collapse of their marriage. Cash's drug use and infidelity created chaos at home, and the affair with June was the final breaking point. By 1967, Johnny and Vivian divorced, and 2 years later, Johnny famously proposed to June on stage in Ontario, Canada. Their eventual marriage became the stuff of country legend, lasting until June's death in 2003. Still, the rumor of its scandalous origins never went away. Both Johnny and June eventually admitted the truth. Their love began in fire and controversy. Instead of tarnishing their legacy, however, it made their story more complex, a tale of passion, flaws, and ultimate devotion. The greatest country love story was real, but so was the scandal that gave birth to it. Barbara Mandrell, the wounds she tried to hide. Barbara Mandrell was one of the brightest stars of country music in the late 1970s and early 80s, celebrated not only for her music, but also for her variety show, Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters. Known for her polished image and unstoppable energy, she was a symbol of perfection in the Nashville spotlight. Yet a rumor persisted after 1984 that the glamorous star was hiding the lasting impact of a devastating car accident. At first, many fans thought the whispers were exaggerated. Mandrell did survive a near-fatal head-on collision near her Nashville home, but she seemed to recover quickly, returning to the stage and television appearances. Still, industry insiders quietly claimed she was struggling far more than the public realized. The truth eventually came out through Barbara herself. She admitted that the crash left her with severe head injuries, memory problems, and long-term pain. For years, she worked tirelessly to appear strong and put together, even as she battled lingering trauma behind the scenes. Friends revealed that her concentration faltered, rehearsals became difficult, and she often doubted whether she could ever perform at the same level again. Though she did stage a comeback, Barbara later confessed in interviews and her autobiography that the accident marked a turning point. She never fully regained her previous stamina, and by the 1990s, she quietly began stepping back from the spotlight. The rumor was true. Barbara Mandrell had hidden the deepest scars of her accident from the public. For fans, it made her resilience even more inspiring. She wasn't just a glamorous star. She was a survivor who carried invisible wounds with remarkable grace. 6. Merle Travis, 16 Tons of Truth. Merle Travis is remembered as one of country music's great innovators, a guitarist whose Travis-picking style influenced generations. But for years, a rumor followed his most famous song, 16 Tons, that its bleak lyrics about debt, backbreaking labor, and hopeless poverty weren't just art, but a reflection of his own family's real struggles in the Kentucky coal mines. At first, fans wondered if it was simply a clever piece of songwriting. After all, Travis wrote for a living, and many assumed 16 tons was just a dark metaphor. Yet the whispers were true. Born in Muhlenberg County, Kentucky, Travis grew up surrounded by coal miners. His father, a miner himself, came home every night covered in dust, exhausted and burdened by the company store system that trapped workers in endless debt. In interviews, Travis admitted that lines like, "You load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt," came directly from his father's words. He once recalled his father saying, "It's like working your life away for nothing. You owe your soul to the company store." When Tennessee Ernie Ford turned 16 tons into a massive hit in 1955, the rumors intensified, with fans demanding to know if it was really true. Travis confirmed it repeatedly. Yes, the song was drawn from the reality he had witnessed as a boy, not just imagination. The truth made the song even more powerful. What might have been just another hit became an anthem of working-class despair, rooted in real lives and real pain. The rumor wasn't just true, it was the very foundation of the song. Merle Travis hadn't invented the story of 16 tons. He had lived it through the eyes of his father, turning their hardship into one of country music's most enduring truths. 7. Willie Nelson, the suicide that never happened. Willie Nelson is celebrated as the laid-back outlaw poet of country music, famous for On the Road Again and his easygoing charm. But for years, a haunting rumor followed him that in his darkest days, long before he became an icon, Willie had attempted suicide and nearly didn't live to tell the tale. To many fans, the idea sounded impossible. Willie, with his ever-present smile and mischievous wit, didn't fit the image of a man crushed by despair. Yet Willie himself later confirmed that the whispers were true. In the early 1960s, when his career was struggling and his personal life was in shambles, he fell into a deep depression. One night, overcome by hopelessness, he reportedly strung up a rope in his garage and put it around his neck. But in a bizarre twist, the beam he tied it to snapped under his weight, saving his life. Willie later joked that he was too heavy for suicide, but behind the humor lay a moment of profound despair. He admitted in interviews and in his autobiography that the failed attempt shocked him into reevaluating his path. Instead of giving up, he doubled down on his music, eventually moving to Austin and reinventing himself as the outlaw troubadour who would define a generation. The rumor of Willie Nelson's near suicide wasn't just true, it was a turning point. Out of tragedy came resilience, and out of despair came reinvention. For fans, it revealed that even the most free-spirited legends carried scars, and that survival itself was part of Willie's outlaw story. 8. Tammy Wynette and George Jones, Love and Violence Behind Closed Doors. Tammy Wynette and George Jones were hailed as country music's ultimate couple, Mr. and Mrs. Country Music. Their duets, like Golden Ring and We're Gonna Hold On, told stories of devotion and endurance. But behind their fairy tale image, a rumor persisted for years that their marriage was marked not by harmony, but by chaos, violence, and heartbreak. For a long time, fans clung to the romantic picture. Tammy, the first lady of country music, and George, the possum, seemed destined for a storybook life together. Yet those who worked closest to them whispered about explosive fights, fueled by George's alcoholism and Tammy's growing frustrations. In the 1970s, Tammy herself began to hint at the truth. She later confirmed in her autobiography that George's drinking made him volatile and that physical abuse did happen behind closed doors. Friends recounted terrifying moments when George would disappear on benders for days or become aggressive at home. One of Tammy's daughters later corroborated the stories, saying that the violence left lasting scars on the family. Even as their marriage unraveled, they continued recording together, creating some of their most beloved music while their personal life collapsed. Their divorce in 1975 confirmed what fans had long suspected. The fairy tale was a myth, and the rumors of turmoil were painfully true. For fans, it was a shocking revelation that the duets they cherished were born not of enduring love, but of a marriage cracking under pressure. The Tammy and George story remains one of country's greatest contradictions. Two voices blending perfectly on stage, while behind the scenes, their lives were falling apart. 9. Porter Wagoner, the lawsuit that shattered a partnership. Porter Wagoner was a rhinestone-clad star of the Grand Ole Opry, famous for his flashy suits, dramatic ballads, and the television show that introduced Dolly Parton to the world. To fans, their partnership looked like pure magic. Porter, the seasoned host, and Dolly, the young powerhouse talent. But behind the scenes, a rumor spread that when Dolly left to pursue her solo career, Wagoner not only felt betrayed, but took her to court, accusing her of financial and emotional damages. At first, the whispers seemed too bitter to be true. Porter and Dolly had given audiences some of country's most cherished duets, and Dolly herself wrote "I Will Always Love You" as a farewell tribute to him. But by the late 1970s, the truth surfaced. Wagoner filed a $3 million lawsuit against Dolly, claiming she owed him for management fees and breach of contract. The legal battle got messy. Dolly, already emerging as a superstar, was deeply hurt by the accusations, but confirmed that Porter had indeed sued her. The case dragged on for years before finally being settled out of court, with Dolly paying Wagoner a substantial but undisclosed amount. Even more telling, Dolly admitted in later interviews that while she loved Porter like family, their relationship had become toxic. He was controlling, demanding, and sometimes verbally abusive. The lawsuit only cemented the rumors that their split was far more painful than fans imagined. Ironically, Porter and Dolly reconciled later in life, with Dolly visiting him often during his final illness in 2007. Still, the rumor remained true. Behind the Rhinestones and the Smiles was a bitter court case that nearly destroyed one of country music's most iconic partnerships. 10. Charlie Rich, a star consumed by the bottle. Charlie Rich, known as the Silver Fox, was admired for his soulful blend of country, jazz, and blues. With hits like Behind Closed Doors and The Most Beautiful Girl, he became a polished symbol of sophistication in 1970s country music. Yet, throughout his career, a rumor shadowed him that alcohol abuse haunted his every step and ultimately cut his life short. At first, fans resisted believing it. Rich's suave stage presence and smooth voice seemed at odds with the image of a man spiraling under addiction. But those who toured with him began to tell stories, missed shows, slurred performances, and erratic behavior that sometimes embarrassed him on national television. The most infamous incident came at the 1975 CMA Awards. While presenting the Entertainer of the Year award, Rich stunned viewers by pulling out a lighter and setting fire to the card, announcing John Denver as the winner. Many blamed his bizarre behavior on heavy drinking that night, a rumor later echoed by colleagues who knew him well. By the 1980s, Rich's career had slowed dramatically, with alcohol continuing to erode his health. He withdrew from the spotlight, performing only occasionally, and in 1995, he died of a blood clot in his lung at just 62 years old. Doctors and friends alike pointed to years of heavy drinking as a major factor in his decline. The whispers had been true all along. Charlie Rich's brilliance as a musician was undeniable, but so were the demons that dogged him. For fans, it was a sobering reminder that even country's most refined stars weren't immune to the struggles that plagued so many of their peers. 11. Elvis Presley, the pills behind the king's country crown. Elvis Presley may be remembered as the king of rock and roll, but he also left an indelible mark on country music. His ballads and gospel-infused recordings topped both the country and pop charts, making him one of the most versatile performers of all time. Yet a persistent rumor followed him throughout his later years, that even when recording or performing country material, Elvis was heavily dependent on prescription drugs to get through. At first, the idea sounded like cruel gossip. Elvis had always projected charisma and confidence, whether on stage at the Grand Ole Opry or in Las Vegas. But insiders began to whisper about the endless bottles of pills he carried, uppers to wake him up, downers to help him sleep, and painkillers to keep him going. The truth exploded after his death in 1977. Toxicology reports revealed a shocking cocktail of prescription drugs in his system, and doctors who had worked with him confirmed he had been prescribed thousands of pills in the years leading up to his death. Friends admitted he sometimes slurred his words in the studio, nodded off during rehearsals, or seemed dazed even while performing songs meant to showcase his emotional depth. For country fans, it was particularly painful. Elvis's renditions of country standards like I Forgot to Remember to Forget and Blue Moon of Kentucky had helped bridge Nashville and Memphis, showing how closely tied the genres were. But the realization that those later recordings and performances were clouded by addiction made the rumors all too real. The whispers of Elvis's pill dependency weren't just true, they became one of the defining tragedies of his career. Even as he gave the world unforgettable music, he was battling demons that no crown could protect him from.